In this video, I'm going to share with you the number one thing to do to stay healthy. And no, it is not exercise, it is not eating healthy, even though of course those things will help. But the number one thing to do to stay healthy is to learn how to process your emotions. Because most of us haven't been taught how to process our emotions, and instead what we are doing is we are suppressing our emotions or repressing our emotions, which is where we end up storing the emotions in the body. And we don't realize we're doing this. And these stored emotions in the body have been scientifically proven that it creates illness and disease. So a lot of people that have illness and disease, their illness and disease is linked back to a stored emotion, and most people don't actually realize it. Once you clear out the stored emotion, the illness and disease disappears. How cool is that? So we need to learn how to process our emotions. It's really important. Like we have IQ, right? Which is intellectual intelligence. But there's also EQ, which is emotional intelligence. And that is something that humans lack. And it's no one's fault. We're not taught, we're not taught how to process our emotions. We are brought up by parents that weren't taught. They were brought up by parents who weren't taught. And it's funny because we weren't taught this through the schooling system. We also weren't taught how our own mind works in the schooling system. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to actually process them so you know what to do, so then you can keep yourself healthy. So again, process, not suppress or repress. That's the key here. Now, emotion stands for energy in motion. So you're an energetic being that's always vibrating on frequencies. Your feelings and emotions are the frequency that you are tuned into. So feeling is a word that we invented to describe our conscious awareness of what vibrational frequency we are in. If you're feeling sad, that's the vibration that you are tuned into. If you're feeling anger, that's the vibration you are tuned into. If you feel frustration, that's a different frequency that you are tuned into. Then you have happiness, which is a high vibrational frequency. So the key here is to learn how to process, and we do this by feeling is healing. I love how it rhymes because it makes it easier to remember. So a lot of the times we don't allow ourselves to feel. And I honestly think there are a lot of people out there that it's like they're afraid to feel. So what they do is they find ways to distract themselves. Like if something's gone wrong, let's say you were dumped by someone that you love, and you're in this negative emotional state. And a lot of the times people, instead of allowing themselves to process and feel, they will distract themselves. They may use drugs and alcohol to distract themselves. They may use other people and just sleeping around with whoever to distract themselves. Or they may just be constantly busy, like doing stuff around the house all the time, keeping busy to stop themselves from feeling. And this is unhealthy. We need to allow ourselves to feel. So when I have a bad day, like something's gone wrong and I'm feeling low vibrational, I will take the day off. It doesn't matter what I had planned for the day, even if I had a video planned for the day. I will take the day off and I will sit on the couch and I will allow myself to process the emotion. I will allow myself to feel whatever it is I'm feeling. And I will question what I'm feeling. Like, why am I feeling like this? What's behind this feeling? Do a bit of like emotional inquiry. But I will literally take the whole day off and I'll just sit with the emotion and just allow myself to feel it and process it. And so I recommend you do this too. Like if you've got a job and you've got to get to work, but something's happened in life that's put you in a negative emotional state and you're just not feeling, you're feeling low vibrational. You don't feel like going to work and putting on a fake smile for everyone. Cool and sick. Honestly, you don't have to just cool and sick for physical health. You can cool and sick for mental and emotional health. And take the day off just to allow yourself to do the same thing. Just sit with those emotions. Allow yourself to process them. Allow yourself to feel it. And I want to put this message out here, especially for men, because men were taught that you're not allowed to have these feelings like, boys don't cry. Men have been sent the wrong message about this because We are human beings, and part of being a human being is having emotions. That's just part of the deal. And men especially are being told that they're not allowed to have emotions. It's girly, you know, boys don't cry, like that sort of message that's been programmed into men. And then this is why we have a huge suicide problem amongst men. Because they're bottling so much of this stuff up because they're told they're not allowed to feel, they're told they're not allowed to cry, they're told they're not allowed to have emotions. I'm telling you, if you're a man watching right now, I'm telling you this is the wrong message, and you are allowed to cry. If you feel like crying, you cry, because feeling is healing. Holding it in and storing it in the body isn't going to help you. Again, it's going to create illness and disease later in life. So, don't buy into that bullshit. You're allowed to cry if you're a man, and crying is healthy. Don't see it as a weakness, see it as a strength. It is healthy for us to do it. It's our way of releasing and letting this stuff out. I really just want to make that point with men because I'm quite upset with the suicide statistics, especially with men. Like, it's really high compared to females. So don't be afraid to feel. It's the best thing that you can do. Now, here's an interesting thing. I wrote animals down here to remind me because this is really fascinating, because basically humans will, if we have a traumatic event, which trauma can come in so many different forms, okay? So it doesn't have to be like a big event, like sexual abuse or like your house burning down and you're inside. It doesn't have to be a big traumatic thing. Trauma can come from little things as well. Like, you could have been a 3-year-old child that dropped their ice cream on the ground and it caused you to have this emotional reaction. Trauma is not the event, it's the way the body reacts to the event. And this is the interesting thing about animals, is animals, let's say you've got like 3 gazelles and they're being chased by a lion. And the lion gets one of those gazelles and kills it and eats it, and then the other 2 gazelles get away. Animals instinctively know to release the trauma energy out of their body before going back to the herd. Now, this isn't all animal species, but there are a lot of animals out there that know to do this. They instinctively know, right? So the 2 gazelles that got away from the lion, what they do is they start spazzing their bodies out. You might have even seen like ducks like flapping their wings or something. Like they're spazzing their bodies, and what they're doing is they're releasing that energy, because emotion is energy in motion. And they instinctively know to release the traumatic energy out of the body before going back to the herd, so they don't take that energy back to the herd with them. Isn't that cool? But the problem is humans don't know how to do that, and instead what humans do is we store the emotion and trauma in the body, and it just stays in the body. And then we just carry on in life carrying this stuff around with us. Like, we're carrying this baggage and this rubbish around in our energy field and in our subconscious mind. And then again, it creates illness and disease. So I was watching this documentary last night, and it was actually called Emotion, and it was on Gaia. So I love Gaia. Gaia is like my Netflix. I don't do Netflix, just a lot of rubbish, but I like watching Gaia because there's just really interesting documentaries. And there was a story this guy told in the documentary about a horse. This horse had a problem with walking. And this was a person, like a dude that understood emotions and how storing emotions in the body create problems. So he asked the owners of the horse or whatever, he was like going through, like, was it a dog that upset the horse? Was there a cat? Like, was it a person? They're going, no. And then he said a bird flew over their heads because he was running out of options. He was like, was it a bird? And then the owner person was like, actually, it was. And what had happened was there was a tree by the horse's paddock, and it had a nest, and there was a little baby bird that fell out of the nest, and it fell on the ground, and it ended up dying. And the horse was there and saw it, and the horse felt helpless because it couldn't do anything for the bird, and the horse had extreme sadness, and it ended up storing that sadness in the body, which is what was causing it to have a problem with one of its legs. I think it was like one of the back legs, and it was causing problems with walking. So this guy helped the horse release that sadness from its body, and then the horse was walking fine. So even animals can store them as well and create their own health issues too. So that's what's really interesting about it, right? So again, just to remind you, learn to process by allowing yourself to feel. Don't be afraid to feel. Don't distract yourself. Distracting yourself isn't going to solve anything. It's not going to help the issue. The best thing to do is to just move through it. That's what processing is you're allowing the emotion to, like, the emotion comes in, you're allowing yourself to feel it, to process it so you can release it, and it's gone. Whereas if you're suppressing or repressing, it's like the emotion comes in, you're like, if you distract yourself, it's like you're going, I'm taking this emotion, I'm locking it away in a box inside me, I don't want to know about it. And then you're distracting yourself. Then another emotion comes in. Oh, I don't want to know about this. I don't like feeling, so I'm putting it in my little box and I'm storing it. And then you carry on distracting yourself. Then another emotion comes in. Oh, I don't want to feel that one either, so I store. And you imagine how many of these emotions you're storing in your body. It's crazy, man. And so, again, we all go through trauma too, and we all have this trauma trapped in our nervous system. And so we can do things to clear this out as well. Like, for example, here are some examples of what we can do. Journaling. You can just get a journal and you can just start writing your thoughts and feelings in a journal. Just get it out, like get it out of your system and onto paper. That's a therapeutic way of, being able to deal with whatever's going on inside. Just start journaling it out. Get it out on paper. It'll make you feel better. Another great one is breath work, because breath work is a way we can release the stored emotions and trauma from the body and nervous system. I don't know if you know much about breath work or if you've seen much about breath work, but the breath is a really powerful tool that we can be using. And I am wanting to, part of like this online business I'm building, I want to eventually become certified in breath work so that I can help other people do that. I can help people release their trauma. There's also what's called EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And this is another way to release trapped emotions in the body. It's a tapping technique, so it's like similar to acupuncture, how acupuncture has the little needles pushing on certain pressure points. With EFT, it's using your fingers and tapping on the certain pressure points, like your third eye or the temple or your cheek and it's a way to release these stored and trapped emotions. And another great one is meditation, because when you meditate, you can learn to observe your emotions and become aware of what you're feeling. Again, don't be afraid to feel. Like, get out of the head and get in the body. Meditate and just see what's going on inside. See what sort of feelings there are. If there's a bit of anxiety, that's all right. Allow yourself to feel it and then just sort of question, why am I feeling anxious right now? What's behind this anxiety? And there'll be something underlining, there'll be something, you could have anxiety that's linked back to trauma from when you were 4 and you may not even realize it. Like, it's crazy how this stuff actually works. So these are some great tools that you can use as well as just feeling, it's just a whole process, and there's so many different great ways that we can actually, do this, heal ourselves and release it. Another cool thing is we can transmute and transform energy. So energy can't be created or destroyed. It simply transmutes or transforms into something else. Let's say you have these painful emotions. Some people will transmute or transform the energy into a beautiful piece of artwork. They take their pain and they put it into a beautiful piece of artwork. They're transmuting and transforming that energy. And a great example of this is Eminem. I am a huge Eminem fan. I love hip hop. Eminem's my favorite rapper. And he is a great example because he took his painful childhood, neglected by his father. He had a mother that was pretty much mentally ill and she had a lot of issues going on and drug abuse. He took that painful childhood and look at what he turned it into. He turned it into this amazing career, but not just an amazing career, it's a legacy. He will live on once he dies because of this legacy he has built. He transmuted and transformed that painful energy he had. So you can find other ways to release it, through art, through creativity. Now I want to point this out. Forgiveness is really important. So I had to learn how to forgive because I was hanging on to a lot of anger and resentment in my body. And this was linked back to my childhood, my upbringing, my relationship with my parents. I developed a lot of anger and resentment. And so one of my issues as a kid growing up is I was physically and emotionally abandoned by my dad, and then I was emotionally abandoned by my mum. I remember when I was 5 years old, I had an older brother, he's like 2 years older than me, that kind of bullied me a lot, and I'd end up crying a lot because he's done something, he's been mean in some sort of way. And I remember being like 5 years old. We were away on holiday with my grandparents and my cousins and aunties and uncles, and we were away, at a batch on a holiday. And I remember my brother did something that upset me, and I remember I was sitting there crying as like a 5-year-old kid, and my mum came out and she basically dismissed my emotions. It was like the problem I had growing up was I was being bullied a lot by my older bro, and then I didn't have a parent there to stop it. And so I had to learn to just put up with it. And so the message she sent me, because she basically dismissed my emotions and blew off what he did and didn't even like tell him off or talk to him about it, she just let him get away with it. The message that it sent to me was that my feelings don't matter. And that caused me to start bottling all my emotions up. I literally became the kid that whenever I was upset and wanted to cry, because normally it was my brother that upset me, I literally would go and hide in a bush to cry, because the message that was sent to me was that my feelings didn't matter. My parents didn't care if I was upset or crying. I remember there was another scenario with my dad. I was about 6 and my brother upset me again, and I was hiding in the backyard crying. And then I remember my dad, he didn't even come and look for me in the backyard. He was just at the back door, yelling at me to come in. And I was like this little 6-year-old, terrified of my dad and already upset. And then the fact that my dad was yelling at me even more made me even more scared and upset. And I remember that childhood memory like it was yesterday. I just remember being so scared. But again, it was like neither of my parents cared when I was upset when I was at a young age. And so it caused me to bottle up all these emotions. I didn't express myself. I didn't know how to express myself. I wasn't taught. And I wasn't taught that it was okay to have feelings. And I didn't have that safe space to be able to vent these feelings. You know what I mean? So what happened is that led me to develop anger issues at the age of 11 and 12. I started becoming angry because that's what happens when you start storing. It ends up you bottling up so much that you get to the point where you just start exploding. And that's another thing that I think happens with men is again, they're storing their emotions and ends up coming out in anger, because anger is a secondary emotion. There's a primary emotion behind the anger that's normally sadness or pain or, hurt. And so a lot of it's just because, we're storing these emotions because we're not being listened to. We've been emotionally abandoned. I believe that we have a lot of people that have emotional abandonment wounds. I'm going to link a video at the end of this one that will teach you about how to heal the abandonment wound, because I think a lot of people have one but they don't realize it, because there's 2 types of abandonment. There's physical and emotional, but also abandonment can come in a lot of different forms. So we'll link that one at the end of this video for you to check out. So I had to learn the importance of forgiveness. Because of my childhood, I developed a lot of anger and resentment towards my parents. And it was Dolores Cannon that I learnt, the importance of forgiveness, because I held a grudge with my family for over 10 years. I barely had anything to do with them. And I had a lot of anger and resentment stored in my body. I was a very angry, short-tempered person. I learned from Dolores Cannon that when we forgiveness is the way we release that anger and resentment. Now, forgiveness is not for the other person. It doesn't let them off the hook. You can forgive someone without having them back in your life. You can forgive someone without telling them that you forgive them. It's not about them, it's about you. And so what forgiveness does is it gets us to release these stored emotions like anger and resentment. When we let it go, we have a shift in our energy. We feel so much happier, and therefore we're going to be healthier. If we keep storing anger and resentment and we're walking around with it, it can turn into things like cancer. Again, I learned that from Dolores Cannon. So I had to go through the process of learning to forgive my parents, and I did. I had to forgive them knowing I will never get the apology that I felt I deserved. I had to just forgive and let it go. And when I did that, I tell you what, it was one of the best things I've ever done for myself. Because as I forgave and let it go, I felt it leave like my chest. I felt lighter in the chest. Not only that, but I had a transformation in my own energy. I went from being someone that would get triggered really easy because I had short temper and I'd get triggered so easy and react. And then all of a sudden it's like now I'm this person that just is able to observe and respond. And that's because I healed myself by forgiving. So forgiving is important. That's how we can release these trapped emotions. Forgive everyone that's hurt you. You don't have to tell them that you forgive them. You don't have to ever talk to them again. It's for you. It is not for the other person. It's so you can let it go. When you let it go, it releases from your energy field. It releases from the subconscious mind. You'll have a transformation like me because you'll be in a new energetic state because it's gone. And again, that new energetic state is going to create a better reality for you as well. So realize it's really important to forgive and let these things go. Dolores Cannon is a great source I recommend looking into for this because Dolores Cannon, again, she's one of the people that I learned the importance of forgiveness from and why and how, like storing these emotions do make us sick. If you have access to the Gaia app, I highly recommend watching the documentary on there called Emotion, which will explain things further so you can understand it better and the science behind it. The Empowered Healers. Now, these are people I found online on YouTube and Instagram, and these are people that are healing like other people's serious health issues, things like Parkinson's disease, lupus, MS, 30 years of back pain, sciatica. Like they're helping to clear out these serious illnesses because what they do is they work with they do what's called the subconscious imprinting technique. And they're working with people's subconscious mind and the nervous system, and they're clearing out the trauma, and then the people's, MS is gone, the Parkinson's disease is gone. So I highly recommend looking into these people and the work they're doing as well so you can realize that this is a real thing. People are out here doing it, out here clearing out, like these issues. There are 2 books that you can look into as well. I have them here that teach you about how to release trapped emotions. So the first one is the Energy Codes that teaches you how to heal your body and live your best life, get rid of these emotions that are stored. And then we also have the Emotion Code, another great book that will help you to learn how to release trapped emotions. So that's what we need to do to keep healthy. Learn how to process our emotions instead of suppressing them and repressing them and storing them in the body so that they won't turn into illness and disease later in life. It'll keep you healthy. That is why this video is titled The Number One Thing to Do to Stay Healthy, because most people don't realize that this is what's making them sick. So I hope you like this video, guys. If you got some sort of value out of it, let me know by giving me a thumbs up or write a comment. If you like this sort of content, then subscribe and hit that bell notification. And I'm going to link the video here on how to heal the abandonment wound. So I highly recommend looking into the abandonment wound because I think it's a very common wound, especially emotional abandonment. Like it's obvious if you've been physically abandoned, but emotional abandonment, I don't think people realize that they have this wound. So check that video out. Hope you have an awesome day. Peace.